He doesn't emphasize that that's the starting place. He's saying that that's the stabilizing factor. That's where that's where it ended up, and possibly that's the way that it was going to stay. That it had been, if you've ever seen somebody who's been depressed for like 10, 15, 20 years, the musculature of their face actually changes.
Oh.
You will actually see sort of frown lines and so on in them, and you will know that that person is not only sad now, they have been sad forever. So literally it was embedded in their faces, this concept of violence. So I'm not sure if he's saying that Mipnehem is their faces are what showed it first, and then it radiated out from there. He doesn't say it one way or the other.
Yeah, the face actually became altered in such a way, as you said, physically.
But he's
altered.
saying that that's because it's got the etnachta. That's where it's stabilized. That's
most noticed, perhaps.
That's the nonverbal behavior idea that it's either your face or your voice that conveys what's inside without like the least control.
Honestly, yes.
Yeah, most honest reflection of what's happening inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to the second part of the sentence, Vehineni, and readily I.
I love what he does here, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Here, your father, where he can, he'll translate real literally where it can make sense. So Vehineni is a perfect thing, and readily I, because he could have said and I readily. But here, in terms of the way the vav for the and the hine, the ready, right, and the yud, I, as opposed to beforehand, mipnehem, if he went from face there, it really would make an already difficult translation impossible to understand, right? But here, where in English, it will allow you to do it exactly the way it is in the Hebrew. I think that's brilliant. I bet he's consistent with that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 12.
Richie, I wish I had understood what you said, so I could have enjoyed it like
I
everybody else.
So he's using a very literal breaking up of the Hebrew word to again allow each word to stand alone, and he's not worrying about the way that it's going to fit into a sentence because he's going to build a paragraph around it.
Oh.
Number 12, we're on page 6. This attitude became generalized without sight of relief, and readily I have decided to put a resolute limit to it, and as demonstrated by the directional shape of the reading. So this is a mercha. This is something that's going to lead into stuff that's going to come after it. It's going to be sort of gently maybe inclusive of the stuff before it, but it's really going to be pointing forward from there. So again, we're talking about this declaration that God is making to Noach. Well, remember, way back at the beginning of the sentence, 15, 20 minutes ago, that God is making this declaration to Noach that this end is going to come. It's going to include everything that came before it. The violence is what's going to be the focus of it. It's going to even show on the people's faces. And what's God going to do? What's the declaration? Vehineni, and I am going to now, and it's going to lead into mashchitam, number 13, destroy them, the tipcha, which is going to collect from the hineni. The heavenly judgment had reached a firm conclusion without further delay or postponement to destroy them, radically consistent with the rule of justice, mida keneged mida, as depicted by the closing shape of the directional mark. So this is going to not be, we have lots of notes that are emphatic or trumpets or things that are focusing and saying that this is something big. This is mercha tipcha. These are basic notes. This is just exact balance. Whatever is going to be there is not going to be an over reaction to there's going to be no anger in this. This is
It's
going to
a
be
natural
exactly.
consequence.
This is
Yes.
going to be a natural, quote unquote, a natural consequence.
Yes.
This is going to be a balanced mida keneged mida, measure for measure. I'm gonna take what has gone on, and I'm going to give it an exact match in terms of closing it off, in terms of finishing it. Et haaretz, with the earth. This has the sof pasuk, so this is going to finish off the second concept of the sentence. Since the topographical configurations of the surface was utilized for man's adventures, so you remember when we said haaretz, the earth itself, the shape of the earth, the environment around man was part of the problem. It had made things perhaps too easy for them to sin, or to express their ego at least. Since the topographical configurations of the surface was utilized for the man's adventures, the annihilation of the living will be connected with the earth, which will be deprived of its magnificent contours or shapes of beauty and convenience. They will disappear as part of the general ruin.
This is very interesting because I agree with you. If you look at part of the first half and the second half in terms of the natural balance, if we look at the Mercha and Tibcha as brackets of a concept, Ki Malah Haaretz Chamas reflects the Hineni Mashchitam. That the earth became full of violence, and therefore I readily must destroy them. And then Ki Malah Haaretz Chamas Mipneihem, an additional concept with an etnachta with a pause. V'hinei mashchitam et haaretz. Mipneihem is the contours of their face, and haaretz is the contours of the land.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Good one, Sue.
And the remark that comes after is going to help you when your question before about aretz, and then see what your father does here. He notices all the different words having to do with land or something related to land, and he gives a different explanation for each one. Like what's Adama? How is Adama different than Yevesha or Aretz?
So we're going to continue on page 6. Remark: the beginning of the Sedra operates with some expressions as were used at creation of the previous Sedra. Tehom, Elokim, Haaretz. So we're going to take words that were referred to back in the sentences that describe the creation, and we're going to say that these are loaded words. They're not just words in and of themselves. They're words that bring with them a background, that bring with them a certain context. Certain descriptions of land relate to the level of depth with respect to the surface. Adama, Yavasha, Eretz, Tehom, and Doma. And we're going to go through each one. Adama, the ground, is the most superficial layer of the workable and productive part of the earth. And
It only becomes Adama later because after Adam's creation. Is that the way that works? That's what we're saying here as well.
so I'm thinking when it becomes Adama. I think we've got the first expression of that is Oved Adama. Is that from Cain and Hevel? One of them was somebody who worked the land. Well, you can't work the deepest part, the earth core. You got to work the dirt that's on the surface. You got to work the topsoil. Yabasha is brought again.
With Cain and Abel, though, doesn't it start with Adam himself when he's sent out of the Garden of Eden? He is going to be destined to work the land. Like that's.
The question is what's the phrase that's used?
Yeah.
You just need to look up that. I mean, we're in Bereshit, so let's go back and have a look.
Okay, well maybe we'll come back to this as homework for next week.
Right.
So we'll leave this to try and find the first incidence of each one of these words.
But I think sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Page 104. I think you're right. Top right of page 104 is when God is cursing Adam.
So back in the Bereshit section.
Back in the Bereshit section.
Yeah, no. The only question is whether there's an earlier incidence of the word Adama. and I will look in a concordance on Shabbos, and I will tell people. But in any case, Adama is what you work. It's the level of topsoil that you work. Yavasha is brought in again the very first separation in terms of the creation from the word yavesh, dry, is the name of dry land in contrast to either water or heaven. So that's brought in the original psukim of creation. Harava is the raw surface of the earth, which can be altered. So charev is from sort of destroyed or desolate. So this is literally something that is as raw as it can be, and then you have to build something on top of that.
Is that like a lava flow or something, or the raw edges of rock from an earthquake or something?
No, it's something that probably has a very rough appearance to it. So it can be something sort of after a disaster has happened, would also be called that. Or so a city that's been destroyed would also be called charev.
Like the churva.
Like the churva.
Yeah,
So
ruins.
the churva. There's a synagogue in Jerusalem that was destroyed for years and years and years and years, and they finally just rebuilt it, but they called it the churva,
Oh.
the one that was destroyed.
So it's like ruins.
There you go.
Mhm. Yeah, so ruins.
Okay.
Ruins is a good description.
But that's not the
So-
word that's used for ruin. What is the?
It's also that same word would be used for ruins as well.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Mhm. So
Because they kind of looked at just.
That was
Right,
the
but I never
perfect
heard
word.
of land
Mhm.
ruins. Like I never heard of.
Mhm.
No, but if you think about some of the desert landscapes, it's just bits of rock that are broken off,
Yeah.
and so it's just these rough, ragged edges.
That's
and no,
true.
it's just
the bad
kind of-
lands.
Yeah, well, that's it. Just like Arizona,
Right.
Mhm.
the bad ones like Washington,
Yeah.
1600 Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
right. That's right.
To an American.
Sorry.
But Obama's crying, so it's all okay. Right?
Well,
Anyway,
we're on
sorry.
board.
We're on, yeah.
anyway.
Sorry.
Hopefully you're Republicans out there.
Sorry, Nick.
Quite all right. D, Eretz, is the deep layer of the earth still accessible to man. Doma is the level of depth which is characterized by silence. Hence, those being buried are called Yordei Duma. So we'll know that from Hallow. So land that is so deep that there's no more sound there, and the guardian of silence is described as Malach Doma.
Where does this appear though in terms of Bereshit and Noach, Doma? Is he saying that the word actually appears, or some shortage of that one?
No, again, I think he's just quoting Tanakh. I don't think
Oh,
he's
just
quoting
going to
Sidewalks,
the
yeah,
different
just the
levels
right?
of earth.
He's
Yeah,
going
okay,
down
sorry.
different levels.
Sure, sorry, I got you.
So,
Do we understand the use of the term?
Yeah.
and Tehom is a bottomless depth, not accessible to man. So when you do Tashlich, you're trying to throw your sins to Tehom Rabbah. You're trying to throw them into the deepest of the deep, so that they can't possibly come back up again.
So for a language that really has so many less words than English, they did pretty well in giving you at
Yes.
least 6 different levels.
That's
of
right.
language. You think
Connotation.
about it, just, right?
I have a question
Yeah.
though. Other than like very deep under sea, or say in the poles of the earth, where do you find a real abyss? Like, isn't everything searchable, or?
But it's beyond our comprehension because, for example, when the earth opened up, and swallowed Korah,
Oh yeah.
That's, we presume
Well, even now, when you get the mountaineers, there's an abyss. You get,
Yeah,
because of
right.
earthquakes, the mountains crack and shift and open, and it could be miles
Yeah.
You're
down.
right.
It's
Right.
beyond
True.
your ability to see it, to
Yeah.
hear it, to discover it.
I was
That's
just
true.
thinking like but for somebody just under their own power, like you can't really get, how easy is it to get to a true abyss if you're just walking the earth as opposed to without like hiking equipment or deep sea equipment or I don't know.
I don't know if
But you could
people- I
also
don't
have
know if people can-
metaphoric, right?
That's
Like
right.
a person
Okay.
who,
Fall
God
in.
forbid, commits suicide, jumping off a building, that's going to be their abyss, right?
Yeah, true. I know, taking it so literally.
Yeah.
If you think about some of the subterranean water sources, water sources, I mean, they can
And the
extend.
faults, the Mariana Trench.
Yeah, I mean, they can extend very, very deeply, truly the abyss. If you took a rock,
Where you
Mariana
don't have
Trench,
light
if you
even.
sorry?
Where there's not even
Yeah,
light.
if you take a rock and throw, and it was to go down to that is truly the abyss where man cannot access.
Yes.
Well, and we keep saying the abyss, we keep picturing down. To be out to the atmosphere, beyond gravitational pull, out to further universe. That's the abyss. And it just keeps going and going and going.
Uh-huh.
Although in this case we were talking about the earth and the land, but it's an abyss.
I'm trying to think more towards the core of the word, and tohu is sort of chaotic.
Right.
So you get so tehom is a place that is is inaccessible, is literally
Makom of Tohu.
yes,
perhaps,
is a place where it's just not within your capability really to go there.
Devoid of
So,
description.
Well, the center of the earth is essentially a chaotic place.
And again, that's probably we're trying to look more from the derivation of the word than the actual concept. I mean, can it physically be possible to go there in 200 years from now? Well, maybe, but that doesn't make it any less chaotic. That doesn't make it any less inhospitable. It doesn't make it any less unfriendly.
I guess I was just trying to think from the perspective of ancient people, like what abyss, like what was their corollary to like the emotional or spiritual abyss that somebody could fall into? What's their earth version of that? So, like in the Middle East or.
Wow.
So you'll always have words that convey concepts. So the idea of something that when it talks about a sea or a desert is always something that doesn't have markers that allow you to chart a path. So whenever you see in Tehillim or in Torah something that's allegorically described as one of those two, a desert or a sea, the idea is you're looking at a place with no landmarks. So when you see Tehom, you're seeing something that is leading you to a place where there can't be organization, where it's confusion. Where you see Doma, you're leading to a place where you can't express anymore. You're made to be silent.
But wait, is Tahom actually chaos? Is that the
Tohu.
Tohu
is chaos.
And Tahom is
Tahom would be a place of chaos. Tahom. A tohu place. So again, we take from the word and we try and build from the word, and we realize that there might be a physical representation and there might also be a spiritual equivalent of each of these levels. So Adama is derived from Adam, is derived from man. So this is something that spiritually would be something that is in the realm of man. Yavasha, dryness, is separating out water, which is life-giving, and water, which is Torah, which is something that feeds and nurtures. versus something that won't necessarily feed and nurture. You've got to do something in order to feed yourself and nurture yourself when you're on dry land, whereas when you're bathed in minerals and your bacteria, you can live in the water. Charava is again coming from the concept of something that's been cleaned off or destroyed or had all of its potential removed, and you have to do something in order to rebuild it. And that both comes from the physical concept of what a charava would be, and perhaps the spiritual concept of something that has had something removed from it, and you're going to have to rebuild it. You're going to have to draw from there again.
Sword, right? Actual destruction.
So a sword is an agent of charava, is an agent of destruction and desolation. And I will have to contemplate the word eretz and where that word derives from and try and draw a meaning from that. So we're going to go on. We are on page 7. We're going to do one more sentence tonight, or are we done for the day? What do we say?
About 5 to 10. I think maybe
5 to 10?
Because it took us a long time to do the last one, I'm afraid. But I love it. It's like Pesach every Monday night at the house. I'm afraid that we should get rid of the chametz. That's why I've been eating it. No, because at Pesach you get so much into. That's what I feel like. It's amazing.
Let's just let's sign off from here, and we will continue next week.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Jeff. Great job again.